Just imagine it. You turn on a World Cup match, which is the absolute pinnacle of international competition, only to see two powerhouse nations essentially refuse to play on live TV. Picture a stadium where the football gets so incredibly dull and cynical that furious fans start waving cold hard cash at the players, screaming insults, and literally burning their own national flags right there in the stands. I know it sounds completely made up, but it absolutely happened. And the outrage wasn't just contained to the stands either. It got so bad that TV commentators around the world literally begged their viewers to turn off their television sets. The German broadcaster Eberhard Steinjeg was so totally disgusted by what was unfolding that he famously refused to even commentate on the game any longer. But to truly understand the underlying motive behind this unbelievable sporting crime, we actually have to flash back to the ultimate underdog story that caused it in the first place. Act 1. The Hubris and the Heroes. To really get this, we have to travel back to the 1982 World Cup in Spain. West Germany, who were the reigning European champions and just an absolute footballing superpower at the time, were set to play World Cup debutants Algeria. To the rest of the world, Algeria was viewed as nothing more than a minor bump in the road for the German machine. The sheer documented arrogance of the West German team leading up to this matchup is actually stunning. They didn't just overlook Algeria, they actively, publicly disrespected them. I mean, look at this quote from West German player Paul Breitner. They were openly laughing at their opponents. They even refused to watch tapes of the Algerian squad before the match because they thought taking them seriously would just be a joke. And the manager wasn't any better either. Jupp de Waal confidently bragged that he'd jump on the first train back to Munich if his team suffered a defeat. The Germans were completely blinded by their own toxic hubris. They mocked the Algerians in press conferences, essentially treating a prestigious World Cup match like a light training drill against a bunch of amateurs. But then, in a historic shock that absolutely stunned the globe, Algeria's brilliant, dynamic, and incredibly fast-paced passing completely dismantled West Germany. The Algerian heroes, led by absolute legends of the game like Rabah Majer and Lakhdar Belloumi, earned a legendary 2-1 victory. This wasn't just an upset, this was history. Algeria became the very first African or Arab team to ever defeat a European team at the World Cup. It was literally described as the sinking of the Titanic for German football. Which brings us to Act 2, the group stage math problem. So the superpower was wounded and the underdog was flying high. Algeria followed up their incredible win by losing to Austria, but then bounced right back to beat Chile 3-2. And this exact sequence of events set up a massive mathematical loophole that would become the perfect motive for betrayal. The crucial piece of the puzzle here lies in the team's statuses. Notice how Algeria had played their final game a day early. They were sitting on 4 points, their match is completely finished. This left West Germany and Austria knowing the exact, precise math required to advance when they faced off against each other the very next day. Because of the way goal difference tiebreakers worked, a narrow 1-0 or 2-0 victory for West Germany was the magic loophole. That highly specific result guaranteed both neighboring nations would advance to the next round, brutally eliminating the Algerian heroes without Algeria ever having a chance to respond on the pitch. Any other result, a draw, an Austrian win, or a big German win, would mean one of the European teams was packing their bags and going home. Act 3. The Match of Shame. The stage was absolutely set. On June 25, 1982, the two German-speaking nations took the pitch at the El Molinón Stadium in Gijón, Spain, for a match that would forever go down in infamy. Now, at first, it actually looked like a real game. The match kicked off furiously, but exactly 10 minutes in, Horst Hrubesch scored for West Germany to make it 1-0. The magic scoreline was officially achieved. And then, the football just completely stopped. The aggressive play entirely vanished, and a shocking 80-minute standstill began on the world's biggest stage.
These stats from the second half brilliantly illustrate the utter absurdity of what the press dubbed the non-aggression pact. There were only 3 total shots in the entire second half and 0 on target. The team simply passed the ball harmlessly back and forth in their own halves. Austria completed 99% of their passes before even reaching the halfway line. There were practically no tackles. It was an outright, undeniable refusal to compete.
The stadium naturally erupted into absolute chaos. Disgusted Spanish fans began shouting for the players to kiss, treating the whole match like a total farce. Meanwhile, heartbroken Algerian supporters waved banknotes at the pitch to loudly imply the match was bought and fixed. Even German fans were sickened. One was actually seen setting his own national flag on fire right there in the stands. The backlash worldwide was just visceral. The local Spanish newspaper, El Comercio, didn't even put the match summary in the sports section, they put it in the crime section. When the West German team returned to their hotel, they were met by furious fans throwing eggs at them, and the players actually retaliated by throwing water bombs back. It was a circus. But for Algeria, the ultimate betrayal was still to come. Act 4, the legacy. So, despite the global outrage, the egg throwing, and the formal protests forcefully lodged by the Algerian football officials, the governing bodies had to make a final decision on what to do about this obvious collusion. Algeria lodged a formal complaint. FIFA held a massive 3.5-hour emergency meeting to figure it out. But their conclusion? Because the teams technically operated within the rulebook by simply possessing the ball and running down the clock, FIFA ruled they couldn't alter the result. There was no explicit written rule against passing backward for 80 minutes. West Germany and Austria officially advanced, and Algeria was officially eliminated. However, the sheer global outrage forced FIFA to change the rulebook forever. They introduced the simultaneous kickoff. From then on, final group stage matches are mandated to be played at the exact same time. This ensures that teams can never again look at a finished scoreboard and know the exact math needed to collude before they even step onto the pitch.
But, human nature in sports is a tricky thing. Even with those rule changes, we actually still see echoes of this tactical manipulation today. Just look at the 2024 Olympic qualifiers between Japan and Uzbekistan, where a 0-2 scoreline benefited both teams, leading to a world record 1,466 harmless passes in a single match. It just proves that when the math allows it, teams will almost always prioritize advancing over entertaining.
And the pain of that 1982 betrayal? It really hasn't faded one bit. In fact, 44 years later, ahead of the 2026 World Cup, where Algeria is drawn into a group with Austria, Algerian football legend Lakhdar Belloumi is openly calling for vengeance. He still considers it a fatal conspiracy that robbed his nation of their rightful glory, and he's actively urging the current generation to settle the score. So I leave you with this final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. The players in 1982 did exactly what was required to secure their team's advancement without technically breaking a single written rule. But when winning is absolutely everything, where do you draw the line between cleverly playing the rules and utterly ruining the sport? Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and keep questioning the game.